Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our webinar. I was once standing at an airport in Perth, Australia, and a man walked over to me and he said to me, he just started talking to me, and in conversation, he said to me, Rabbi, I want you to remember one thing. Life is not a rehearsal. And those words have just always stayed with me, because somehow as we go through our journey in life, we do think that life's a rehearsal. And somehow we think that we can get our life right whenever we want. But somehow life just rushes by. We forget that every day we are performing the show of our life. I think one of the key ingredients to getting our lives right is delayed gratification. Not having everything you want when you want it. And there's nobody better to speak about this and on the subject than David Zidel. He holds an MBA. He has inspired people through his lectures for many, many years. He's an author of 2 best-selling books. But he's just so inspiring to listen to and to use his tools to better our life. So, David, thank you for making the time. And I'm going to pass on to you, and we look forward to hearing you.
Right, thank you. So thanks, Rabbi. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to talk to you about it, but please, if you have any questions, please just pop them into the chat as we go along, and the Rabbi will then ask the questions on your behalf. So if you have any questions as we're going along, please just put it into the chat. As you used to with all these Zoom things, which I think you're used to by now, I'm going to share my screen so that you'll be able to see what's up there. You're now seeing the wrong thing, so I'm going to need to switch. Sorry, guys, I just want to do the display settings. And sorry, let me just reshare. Apologies for this. It's showing the wrong thing. Okay. One last thing, I just want to see, Rabbi, can I just ask you, are you seeing one screen or 2 split screens? I just need to...
I'm seeing 2 screens, one big screen which says now, with 2 clocks. Right. And then I see a small one which says, is this you? I think you need to...
So this is, if you can give me just a second, I need to sort this out, because I want to share just the one screen and not both screens.
Sure, we'll give you some time.
If you just
while we're waiting, I'll just share a thought with everybody, and that is as follows: that this week's Torah portion is about the flood, Noah's flood. And the flood is really a flood of difficulties, which sometimes we experience in life. When we go through a flood of difficulties, what is it called? It's called a tzoros, a tzara, a trouble. But if you juggle the letters of trouble, tzara, what does it read? Tzohar, window of opportunity or precious jewel. It's the same word. So when you're facing a challenge, when you think you're drowning, there's really a window of opportunity, or it could be the most precious jewel of your life. Let's always remember that, but that's what you're going to share with us. So we're back to you, David. David? You're muted.
Great. Let's try this. If it doesn't...
Now click on this choice.
Okay, let me just, I'm hoping you're going to get just the one screen rather than both screens.
Beautiful. Now we can see it. It's the only screen.
Go full frame.
Yeah, just... No, okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share it one more time. Apologies for this. And what I'm going to do is, let's try this. Okay, so what I'm going to give you, unfortunately, is, let me just try one last thing here, Rava, sorry. Okay, it should work now. There we go.
It's perfect. It's one big screen.
Great. So one big screen, great, excellent. So what we're talking about is the how-to of delayed gratification. And by the way, what did you feel while I was fiddling around with this? What, you were waiting for a presentation and the presenter didn't quite get it right and you're waiting and waiting. What do you feel? And you must probably felt a little bit of empathy. You felt a little bit of like, oh, I wonder if I'm in the right place. So that's part of the anticipation of it. But we're going to go through these feelings because what I'm talking about tonight is behavioral economics in a sense. And behavioral economics is talking about you yourself and talking about business and how do you understand it from a business point of view. And we're talking delayed gratification is really this sentence, this thing that's up on the screen now. Choose between what you want now and what you want the most. That's the key of this. So if we now have a look, what is that about? And this is going to solve these questions. And do any of these relate to you? Do you ever eat cake even when you're on diet or overeat? Do you often impulse purchase? Do you buy things and you know that you should be rather saving for retirement? Do you think you should be exercising, but you don't? Do you ever procrastinate? Do you ever have a goal, a wish, and then you do nothing about it? Are you meant to be doing stuff work-wise, but then you get distracted with either WhatsApp or playing games or just answering emails, etc. So I'm going to share with you 7 tips from behavioral economics that will enable you, hopefully, to cope with this. And it really is around this. It's learning discipline. And this sentence over here, laziness pays off now, hard work pays off later. And that's the problem. You get an instant reward for being lazy because you are instantly, you feel that I'm doing what I want to do. Hard work is hard work. And the thing is, it doesn't pay now, it pays off later. Going on diet, you don't see the results immediately. You know, it would be very different if when you went on diet and every step you took, you could hear the weight falling off and you could see it instantly. Then we would be motivated, but life doesn't work like that. And talking about delayed gratification, one of the most and important studies that was ever done was the Stanford marshmallow experiment. And what this experiment is about was in the 1970s, and I'm sure you've heard of it, but if you haven't heard of it, it's around kids where they gave them one marshmallow and they put them in a room and they said, if you can avoid eating this marshmallow for 5 minutes, you will get another marshmallow. And some of the kids managed to hold back, others didn't. They said that those that managed to hold back in later life, when they did other experiments, did a lot better in life itself. But how did the kids manage to delay that? And a lot of them were covering their eyes. A lot of them were playing music. Some of them were putting their heads down to try and avoid it. And interestingly enough, they were using these kind of techniques that I'm going to be talking about with you take the distraction away in a sense. And how do we do that? Now, this marshmallow test was great. And in fact, it was great for the kids and people have done it for a long time. But here's the problem for us is we don't live in a marshmallow world. We live in a world where, let's put it the other way around. In the marshmallow test, the kids knew definitely they were going to get a second marshmallow. And then they could see the immediate effects. We can't. We can delay gratification, but there's no certainty that we're going to get that second marshmallow. So now we've got a problem because we start just getting distracted and saying, what can we do about this? So there are two things need to be in place. Number one, you need to trust either yourself or somebody has to put trust for you in place so that you know that if you wait, you will get that second marshmallow. That's the one thing that stops us from doing and delaying gratification. And the other thing is sometimes we never know when we're going to get it. And the mind is made up of two main things. And there was a book written, Think Fast, Think Slow. And in this book, they wrote about your two parts of your mind. And the one is your impulse. And that's where we grow up. That's our animalistic aspect. And we need that. We need to be able to look out where the danger is. And in the olden days, we need to, you see a lion, you run. You don't have to stop and think, what's this lion doing? How's it? You just run. What we've now developed is the thought process, where sometimes we look at something and we can say, should we do this or should we do that? That's the slow thinking. And we have these two aspects happening simultaneously. I like to look at it more and understand it's a little bit better to understand it is, are you in your head or in your heart? When you're in your head, you're thinking about things. When you're in your heart, you're just acting on impulse and you're just doing the things. Part of the delayed gratification or not delaying gratification is the impulse, is acting with our heart. You see something, you just want to get it now. You know that you've got a bigger goal, but you forget about it in that instant. And we talk about it being in a state of hot, when you're in a hot state. And a hot state is when you are driven by your heart. That is passion. That is when you really feel, you see something and it just amazes you. And that's why people do crimes of passion. And people afterwards say to them, what were you thinking? Or if you're driving and somebody cuts in front of you and you swear at them and your partner sitting next to you says, what were you thinking? You weren't. You were not thinking. You were feeling. And we move between those two things. So that's an important aspect. And I'll come back to that just now. So you're either in your heart or in your head. But you need to follow your heart, but always try and take your brain with you. One of the key concepts is discounting the future. And what discounting the future is we know that we need to save money for our retirement, but our retirement is so far down the line that it looks so far away. It looks so small. It's like when you look in the distance. It's when you're in an airplane and you look down on the houses. They look so small. It's only when you come down to land that they get bigger and bigger and bigger. Our future are those houses, and they look so small and insignificant, but that's where we got to live in the future. And we see things that are right now as more rewarding. I want to lose weight. That's my goal. But this cake right now, it looks so great. And the cake now looks 10 times more than what my future weight loss looks. And that's the problem. And we live life in default. Whatever the default is, we accept it. And I'll read this. We do things and we make decisions that we think are based on our own thoughts and choices. But in reality, they're being influenced continuously, both intentionally and unintentionally, by everything around us. And just with this whole aspect of the corona right now, we are really consumed by it. And now that's in our thoughts continuously. That's our default. We wake up with the thought. So we need to realize that we're in this mode of default, and how do we handle this? So here are the 7 rules. Here are the things around what can we do about this. The first thing you need to do is find out, is it fake or is it fact? Whatever we're looking at, what is it, fake or fact? And we're really in a battle, ourselves versus ourselves. So I know we're looking and we're in a world of fake news and everything's happening and is this truth? But this is the person we lie to the most is ourselves. So we need to, first of all, be aware of that. But the most important thing, if you want to do something, and if you want to delay your gratification, if you want to achieve one of these bigger goals that we're looking at, is you need to find your why. Why do you want to do it? What is the purpose of it? And the bigger the why, the bigger the chance that you're going to achieve it. And when I say the bigger the chance you're going to achieve it, I mean, let's say, unfortunately, somebody passes away and you want to do something for them. That's a huge incentive. And there's a good chance you will be able to do that. You need to have something that you're doing it for more than just yourself. We know, I'll go back to dieting. It's the easiest thing to look at. Somebody can want to lose weight their whole life and they keep trying, can't lose weight. 3 months to go to their wedding, boom, they lose weight. Why? That why is bigger than themselves. Jacques Kallis, if I take a sporting analogy, Jacques Kallis played cricket. His father got sick. He put the number of his father's age on the back of his shirt and he scored 2 double centuries back to back. I think it was the only time it's ever been done up to that point. And that's because he was now playing for his father, not just for himself. We need to look at those things. So what's your why? And where does this why come from? There's a fantastic speaker, Simon Sinek, who talks around this, and he came up with the concept of the golden circle. And he talks about it for business, but I think it's for everybody. You need to find your why. Once you find your why, then you find out your how and what you need to do to be able to achieve that. If you want to do something, achieve something, you want to delay that gratification, you want to avoid doing something, you need to make it easier for yourself to avoid doing what's bad and easier to make things, to do things that are easy to do. So it's got to be, you've got to make your goal easier. So in a canteen, for instance, in the States, they had a canteen for students. And what they did is they just brought all the fruit and vegetables to the front. And that was easy accessible. And if you wanted to order something unhealthy, you had to physically order it. Just that little thing made a massive difference. Let's look at the situation in Cape Town. A couple of years ago, no water in Cape Town. What did people do to make it easier to follow the rules? So if we look at some of the hotels, I know some of the hotels took the plug out of the bath and they put it in reception. If you wanted a bath, you could phone down and get the plug. You'd have to come and get it yourself. A little bit of an issue, so people rather showered, and they know that showering uses less water. Some people put actually colors on the drain that changed color after a few minutes so that you know that if you're in the shower, you're overshowering. Somebody came up with an app. The app played songs, and you could take any song you like, put it on the app, and then you could decide how long it needs to play for. So you could play it for 4 minutes, and you hit it as you get in the shower, as you get out, or as the 4 minutes is up, the song stops. That gives you the ability to do the right thing. So put yourself in a position where it's easier to do the right thing. Using that theme of a diet, if you go to a restaurant, tell the waiter not to come and offer you desserts afterwards. If you're living at home, don't put chocolates in the cupboard. Then, there's less chance you're going to eat a chocolate if it's not there. But this one was fantastic. The Radisson in Cape Town did this. If you went into the foyer, you would see a whole lot of these bottles, 110 liters. This is telling you that if you have a bath, this is how much water is going to be consumed. If you have a shower, this is how much water is going to be consumed. And if you did them together, this is what it looks like. You can see the comparison. They tell you, please don't use water. That's just a concept. Now showing it in a pictorial form, you've got a good chance of doing that. Again, just from a South African point of view, just on the scale of ease of doing business with South Africa, we were 32nd in the world in 2008. We're now in 2018, and I'm sure it's a lot worse now, we were at 82. it's harder to do business with South Africa. We want people to do business with us. We're making it harder for them to do business with us. And Rwanda, for instance, did the opposite. They went from 143 in 2018, they're the 29th. So yeah, it's just, you got to make, if you want to achieve something, decide what you want to achieve and make it easier to achieve.
Too much, thank you.
Then the next thing is you need to reward yourself in the short term. You need to look at what your long-term goal is and say, what are the steps that leads to that? And then reward yourself for those steps. And I need to mention a company in South Africa, Discovery, who are doing this exceptionally well. They want you to be healthy. They want you to exercise. In the long run, it's healthy for you, but they give you rewards every week to do the exercise. And there are two ways you can do this. You can either punish somebody for not doing it, or you can reward them for doing it. People try and avoid a loss more than they go for the win. So if you can kind of punish people, or even yourself now, if you're looking for yourself, maybe give yourself a reward and then take it away if you're not achieving it. Think for yourself, what would that be? If you love having cappuccinos, maybe it's the cappuccinos. If you take something that you like doing and take it away from yourself if you're not following through what you have to do. That's the third rule. The fourth one is you need to know what the goal is and have a vision of it and keep correcting. You need to correct yourself all the time. An airplane that flies from Cape Town to Joburg, do you know that it's off track about 99% of the time, but it lands on the runway? Why? Because it makes small little changes continuously. You need to know where you're going. In the olden days, they used to have these motivational speakers used to get up and say, know what your dream is, put a picture on your mirror. Every morning when you're shaving, when you're brushing your teeth, you see what your goal is. We really need to do something like that. We need to know what your goal is, and you need to have it up there so you can visualize it continuously. You know, there's a story of somebody walking down a garden path and walks down the garden path and walks into the forest, and it's daytime and they know where they're going. They can see the castle that they're heading to, but then it gets dark and they don't know where they're going and they're not sure. And then all of a sudden there's a flash of lightning, and in that second they can see where the castle is and they correct their way and they head towards that. Those are our flashes of inspiration. We know what we want. We often forget it. We forget it because we have conflicting things. We have conflicting goals. Some research was done, and even on a to-do list, or if you have goals, we all have achievements, things that we want to do. Choose 3 things. What are your key 3 things that you want to achieve? Not more than that. Make those your big aims. The rest you can do if you can achieve it, but make sure and keep reminding yourself, have that flash of inspiration, what those 3 things are. You need to understand yourself. So things do get difficult, and that's what life's about. But realize that, accept that. Once you accept it, then you know that's what is coming down the line, and you can accept most of those hardships, and hardships make us stronger. There's a lovely story of somebody sees a butterfly coming out of a cocoon, and he watches fascinated. And then he sees this butterfly's not coming out, and there's a tiny little thread that's stopping it from coming out. And with his little finger, he just breaks off the thread, and the butterfly comes out, falls to the ground, and just flutters around. And he thinks, wonder what's wrong with this butterfly? And he walks away. What he didn't realize is this butterfly has to fight against this little thread with its wings. Only when its wings are strong enough to break that thread are its wings strong enough to fly. And if you ever have any hardships, and you can say to yourself, these hardships are making me stronger. These hardships are helping me grow for the future. The hardship has meaning. And once you've got meaning to the hardship, it makes it easier to cope with because we know it's for a purpose. We are made to look for danger. The animals, when they're in the wild, they need to scan, where's the lion? We the same. We look out for danger all the time. But we need to know that we're no longer in the jungle. And we need to know that that danger is potential problems. And we can always see problems, but just be aware that it's not always problem. We can see the problems, but let's ask ourselves, that's the quick thinking. Let's go to the slow thinking. How big is that problem? Let's analyze it. Let's see what we can do about it. Not all news is fact. And there's something in behavioral economics called the heuristic effect. And the heuristic effect is if you hear something continuously and the last time you hear it, it again is bigger in your mind. And we kind of take that as reality. Just because somebody has said something 10 times doesn't make it more real than if you've only heard it once. Know that everything is relative. Everything is relative. We say something's big, it's only relative to something else. We say you're happy, it's only relative to someone else. You say you're rich, it's only relative to something else. Know that what we're feeling is always just relative. And the other thing is, if you really want to achieve something, make a public announcement around it. Years ago, I did a lot of running. I ran the Comrades Marathon, and I had one of the guys, when I started, gave a talk about how your training needs to do. And then he gave us 5 pieces of paper. And you had to write, my name is David. I'm going to run the Comrades Marathon in this year. I promise you I'm going to do it, and sign it. And he said, go and give that to 5 people. Because now you've made a public commitment to it. And that morning, when you don't feel like getting up, you've told people, and those people are going to ask you around it. And what's the difference between a wish and a goal? The only difference between a wish and a goal is a deadline. If we don't have a deadline, we don't wake up what we call the monster. Okay? And that monster is the one that tells us what we need to achieve. There's a guy called Tim Urban, and he talks about the panic monster. And when you reach a deadline, or when you've got a deadline, you procrastinate, but if you've got a certain deadline, eventually you do that work. If you don't, he never wakes up. So if I say, I wish I had a big house, I wish I had this car, I wish I had a yacht, it's a wish, it's not a deadline. If you want to achieve something, say, I'm going to achieve this, and give a date by which you're going to do it. The difference between a wish and a goal is just that deadline. We fool ourselves. This is how we fool ourselves. Which table is longer? A or B? Which one do you think is longer? And I'm certain you're saying A. And I'm going to do some arts and crafts quickly for you. If I take this arrow and I move it across and I turn it around, you can see they're the same size. That's astounding. And the interesting thing is, if I take the proof away, the illusion comes back. And what this is telling us is that one of the things we do the most as humans is our eyesight. Yet our eyes fool us. And just know that we get fooled continuously by ourselves. So I just want to tell you that we're living in exceptional times now. The future is not what it used to be. I love that saying by Yogi Berra. And it's our chance to change. I think it's Winston Churchill who said, never let a good crisis go to waste. And boy, are we in a crisis now. But it's your chance to change. And if you look at that word, can you see it's just one letter difference? The C to the G. Chance to change. So take this opportunity and change. And if you fail at things, don't worry. Life is around failure. We get stronger by failure. We're that butterfly. We got to flex our wings. We got to struggle to grow. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's the stepping stone to success. Failure is not trying. This was Arianna Huffington. And Mark Zuckerberg said the biggest risk is not taking any risks. The world is changing really quickly. You will fail if you don't take risks. We have to take those risks. So I'm going to leave you with this message. And I'm sure you've seen this. If you look at the dark middle bit, you'll see a vase. If you see the white outside, you see two faces. And just please remember, well, no matter what you've gone through, if you want to grow, you've got to follow those steps. But if you look at life differently, or if you look at things differently, things look different. Here's a giraffe. We see one picture, he's looking differently at the same thing, painting something completely different. Here are two ladies. The one is surrounded by flowers, she's sad. The other one's got one flower, she's happy. It's not what's around us, it's how we interpret it. This lady might have had more flowers and now she's lost a few. She's sad. The other one never had any, now she's got one. She's exceptionally happy. So just in summary, what are those steps? Find your real why. Make it easier for you to do what you need to do and harder to do what you're not meant to do. Reward yourself. Take those steps. Reward yourself for those steps. Monitor where you are and keep correcting. Understand yourself. Understand all these things, where we come from, the fast and the slow brain. Whatever your goal is, whatever you want to achieve, and that goal could be to avoid doing something or to achieve something, make a public announcement. And whatever you do, have a deadline. How do they say? Vleit, my story is uit.
David, thank you for that. We want to ask you a question. I wake up today and I realize that I have to change my life. And I've got to set goals, etc., not wishes. I've got goals. But I wake up today, I've got financial issues that I've got to face. I've got a character flaw that I realize that I have to fix up. I'm a procrastinator. I've got a whole bunch of areas. And so what do I address first?
So you choose your top three. And I can't tell you what those top three are. But you've got to choose what are your three things that you want to work on. Don't work on more than three things at once. Then you will just distract yourself and that you will get more and more conflict. So choose your top three. Choose which is your top one of those three. But don't work on more than three at the same time. And just remember that it will be hard. Just remember that it will take time. That's why it's called delayed gratification. You're not going to do something that helps straight away. You know, I find it fascinating. If you're Jewish, you don't eat pork, somebody offers you this most beautiful platter with pork on it. Are you going to eat it? Absolutely not. It's not even a possibility. That's where you've got that single-mindedness. Why can't we use that focus to do other things? And you can. It's just not eating pork is this huge why in your life. You know why you don't do it. If you want to achieve something else, if you don't want to eat something, if we go back to the diet analogy, have that bigger why. What's your bigger reason? If you want to save money, if you want to exercise, what is that bigger why? You know, I know somebody who was heavily overweight. And every year he tried to lose weight, put on more and more and more weight. His daughter came to him the one day and said, "Dad, I'm worried you're not going to be around because of your weight." He went on a diet and he hasn't stopped dieting and he's lost a huge amount of weight. And that is because his daughter gave him that why instantaneously. She said, "Dad, I don't know. I hope you're going to be at my wedding." That's a massive why. You need to find your own why.
Are you putting down to lack of success because people don't know their why in life. As soon as you got your why, you're on your journey.
So that's the step one. But what's more than that is we have a why, or we think we know where we're going, but then we have another why. And then we have people telling us, but that shouldn't be your why, that should be your why. And we get distracted all the time. And we're not achieving because of these we get distracted. It's when you've got a single goal in life, or at most the 3 goals, then when somebody says, don't do this or do this, you equate it to, or you look at it and see, where does it fit in? And does it fit in with kind of what my 3 things are? And if it does, you'll do it. If not, then you don't. You know, if somebody's studying at university and they want to pass, but then all the friends around them are going out on a Saturday night and, you know, doing stuff, you kind of, I'll study later. Depends how big your motivation is. What's your why? And the bigger the why, the more you'll be able to avoid the why not. And when somebody gives you an opposing view, you've got your own beliefs. And I think religion is great with this. You've got your own beliefs and you will stick and follow those beliefs. Now, those we've been taught, and so we accept them. But we can impose our own beliefs for ourselves as well, based on what we want to achieve and how we want to achieve it.
And all the people that you've dealt with over the years in university, do you really see like a person is totally focused? Are they infinitely more successful? Or what's the percentage of people who've gone through your classes and your MBA classes that at that level that haven't known where they're going in life? So
first of all the students in my class are always successful. They've had a great lecturer. Jokes aside. You have people who achieve more and people who achieve less. So it depends. Even the students that come to the class have different ones. The one wants to achieve this and get top marks, and so they will spend all the time studying. Others want the experience. So even from the external view, from the outside, if it looks like you are all doing the same thing, you're on the same train, but you're each taking a different journey. And yeah, so the students have all taken their own journeys and they're all achieving their own, what they want to achieve, and some don't achieve it. And yes, even those that have a great why, sometimes life does get in the way. But there's a quote that I love that says, you don't drown by falling in the water. You drown by not swimming once you're falling in the water. And it's around, we're all going to, at some stage, fall in the water. It's what do you do about that? And do you go back to your original focus, or do you now think, hang on, that focus was wrong, let me refocus? And yeah, achievement and success is not a finishing line, it's a journey.
So what happens if I have a goal in life and I've got my why and I'm working on it, and everybody around me tells me I'm crazy? How do I know if I'm not arrogant? How do I know if I'm right? What is the right path? I'm a student coming to you. I've got this idea. It's a great idea. Everybody tells me I'm absolutely off my wall. My teachers, my parents, my colleagues, my friends. How do you know what's right and what's wrong?
So here's the challenge. You never, ever do. Not that you never do, but there's always that little bit of doubt. And often, if you know what you want to achieve, but everybody is telling the opposite, how steadfast are you in that? And the world is made up of people who have stuck to their guns. And some of them have achieved and others haven't. And it's around about, if you go to your real why, it's like finding out, why do you want to do that? And it's not about material gain. It's not about getting money, being the richest. That's not your why. That's kind of a result of your why. You need to go and find out what gives you fulfillment. Why would you want to do that? And if you also can ask the question, the opposite of that, of the why not? If somebody says you can't do something, you've got to ask yourself, why not? You know, children ask themselves, or if you're talking to kids, you can't have an ice cream, why not? And you come up with an answer, why not, why not, why not? And eventually they get it. They were asking the why not is getting to what we in business term as a root cause analysis. When you go through and you say, why can't this work? Why? Until you get to what the root cause is, the presenting problem isn't always the problem. You've got to dig a few levels down and find what that root cause is. And often if people say you can't do that, you've got to say, why not? If they say it's wrong, you say, why is that wrong? And it's everybody is on their own journey. We're on this journey together, but separately. And it's about determining what is that. And if you're kind of on the right route, you feel it in your gut. And if your gut changes, that just means that you've developed that far. And now you might have to change, because what you thought you were aiming for was just the stepping stone to what you really need to be aiming for. And, if we're standing on a crossroads and you're not sure what to do something. There's a concept of you need to fail fast. Failing fast is, I don't know what to do, this or this. Choose one of them. The moment you do it, if it's not working out, then you know to change. If you don't do anything, you never know if you're working out. And just with this, it's actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but from a Torah perspective, apparently when we crossed the Red Sea, the sea split. That's the story. And then we crossed. No. He walked into the water first, and only when the water was up to here did the sea split. And it's that kind of concept, that it's only when you put the effort in sometimes, then the path reveals itself. And that's what you need to do. And you need to discover what it is. And we make plans, and plans change. But it's through that change, it's through the hardship that we actually discover what we really want to do.
Final question which has come in. Any tips on how to be productive from the minute you wake up? How do I be productive? That's one of the questions.
Correct. I think it's a very good question. So you become productive on that day, not from the minute you wake up. You become productive the day before. And what do I mean you become productive the day before? Before you go to bed, you do a to-do list. And your to-do list is what you need to be doing that day. But your to-do list is linked to what your key whys are, what your 3 things are. We have to do things that are not on our list. We have to do some tasks that are not heading towards our goals. But what often happens is we spend that whole day going through those things, and we don't at all do any of the other things. And that one point I made about continuous correction is whatever those 3 goals are, every single day, you need to have something on your to-do list so that you're doing something towards that goal, a little bit. Anybody who's healthy, who's fit, didn't get fit overnight. Anyone who's strong didn't get strong overnight. Everything is a process of little by little. There's that concept. How do you eat an elephant? Piece by piece. Sorry, guys, there's a little bit of distraction. I might just leave it. Okay, so it's bit by bit. Okay, so how do you become successful? You become successful the night before. You become successful the day before, the month before. You become successful by planning what you want those 3 things to be. And then you do your to-do list the night before. When you wake up in the morning, you don't wake up and say, what should I do now? You wake up and you know exactly what you're going to do. Even some of the successful business people, Zuckerberg, for instance, apparently he's got a cupboard and he's got just the same clothes. He wears the same clothes every day. He's got 10 of each one. He doesn't have to think what's he going to wear. He just puts it on. It's the same thought. Any other questions? Sorry about the distraction there.
Moved on, so we're out of time, but it's been absolutely fascinating, uplifting, and inspiring. Hey, Aaron, over to you.
David, thank you. On behalf of Chabad of Zoom and all who's zoomed in tonight, thank you so much. It was an absolute privilege and honor to hear from you, and certainly much needed. And every person must listen to this. It's much needed for everyone to listen to, because they can learn a lot. And they can also add, it's certainly been a growing experience. So thank you so much, and looking forward to round 2.
Great, excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And to all who zoomed in, thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you.